All right, we're good. No, it seems like it.
Sweet. You have the number.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, no worries. All right. Now we're good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, we're good.
We hope. Let's not.
We want to do a quick test, audio test.
Can you hear us? Anybody online?
All
Yeah.
right.
We got it.
Thanks, Laura.
Have fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right.
I like that it was easier for Laura to turn her camera on than unmute.
All right, are we good?
Yep, we're good.
All right,
We're splitting the screen. All right.
perfect. All right. Good evening, directors, staff, members of the public joining us, and everyone joining us online. I will now call this January 30th, 2025 regular business meeting of the Twin Cities German Immersion School to order. We all start each meeting by reflecting on our mission, vision, and values. The mission of the Twin Cities German Immersion School is the innovative education of the whole child through German immersion. Our vision is Under Hören, Under Sein, Welt offen denken und handeln, educating multilingual world citizens who hear others, see others, and think and act with an open mind. And our values are curiosity, kindness, challenge and support, intercultural engagement, and community. And before I move on to our land acknowledgement, I just want to thank Director Zanfinig for her community message today that reiterated our values as a school and what they look like in practice. These values guide our actions and our decisions as school leaders and board members, and our values shape our community and help make our school the amazing place it is. So thank you for sharing that message today. I'll read our land acknowledgement now. We acknowledge and appreciate that TCGIS is located on Whakapute Dakota traditional, ancestral, and contemporary homeland near Lake Minnewaca in the land now known as Minnesota Makoche. Our presence here is linked to generations of Whakapute stewardship over their land, as well as to the historical and ongoing injustices of settler colonization that impact Indigenous people to the present day. We are committed to understanding our role in this legacy and to educating ourselves and our community about Indigenous history through continued mindfulness and engagement in and outside the classroom. All right, Director Albers, will you please call the roll for the record?
Director Albers is here. Director Larson.
Here.
Director Smaka.
Here.
Director Lindner.
Present.
Director Miller.
Here. Come on.
Hi, come in.
No, come on in. Come on in.
Director Hyde.
Here.
Director Reich.
Here.
Director Yemenayab.
Here.
Director Tesfayesus.
He will be coming late.
And Executive Director, ex officio member, Director Zanfinig.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody in my not panic roll call at all?
You did a great job. I think we all are accounted for. So thank you. We have a quorum. Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties. So we're just started a little bit later. Tonight we are excited to welcome 3 guest presenters, 2 of whom just joined us. To our meeting, Roger Meyer and Melissa Martinez-Sones from Mighty Consulting and Gail Gilman from the Minnesota School Board Association. They're joining us this evening to present their proposals for strategic planning services to the board and to TCGIS. So thank you for joining us tonight. As some of you may know, just a little background as to why they are making a presentation tonight. Our Revision 2025 strategic plan is in its final year, and we're looking forward to launching a new strategic planning process this spring. In the coming months, it's our intention to engage our broader community in this process. So for those of you watching, stay tuned for opportunities to participate in that process. The board's goal is to have a new strategic plan in place by the start of the 2025-2026 school year. So that is a fun part of our meeting tonight. And with that, we will move on to our agenda for the evening. Our first order of business is to approve November's meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve November's meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thanks, Director Larson. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Any corrections or edits to the November minutes? All right. Hearing no discussion, the November meeting minutes are approved. Our next order of business is a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Yamaniab. Any discussion on tonight's agenda? All right. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. And that brings us to our open forum of new, just all coming to participate. So perfect. If there's anyone online that is signed up for open forum.
Don't have any.
All right. Seeing and hearing no one who is going to be participating in open forum, we'll close that for the evening. We're catching up
We are
already.
You're
So
2 minutes ahead.
I know, we're just rolling. So that brings us to one of my favorite parts of our board meetings, which is our special recognition. Let me pull up those slides.
Try. Oop. Well, y'all can see it online, but they can't see it in person. There we go.
Awesome. So our first slide of recognition is to give a shout out to our operations team, and I've asked Director Zempinik to talk a little bit about why that's such a big deal and why we're saying a huge thank you.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. We have been without our Director of Operations, Kim Hackett, as she is home with her twins, Harrison and Emma Jean, who I saw yesterday online. They're adorable. And turns out we really need her. She does a whole lot around here. And we have had to take basically 4 to 5 people to replace her. So Isabel has stepped up to help kind of continuing her role as business manager. She stepped up into some larger roles to help with finance, helping me with the budget, and then also taking on the huge undertaking of HR support. And when you see the staffing page in my director's report, you'll understand why that's a big deal, because we've had some changeover. And so there's a lot of paperwork and just the amount of work that goes along with onboarding new staff. And she's a delight to work with, and I love partnering with her every day. And thank you so much, Isabel. Really appreciate it. I couldn't have done it without you. Alex Weeding is another treasure in the front office, and we gave out some parts of Kim's job, and she took on scheduling school events, and she's the one who got us the Blackhawk rental. They're here tonight. And so thanks to Alex for taking on some extra pieces in this time. And then Catherine Radicke, Kim's Hackett's job is to also be the manager of Kinder Club and to oversee Daisy and Mangan. And so Catherine's taken that on, and they've worked together at a really busy Kinder Club time with planning the summer camps. So a special shout out to Alex and Catherine as well.
All right.
That me?
I think that's you.
Wait, should I come in front of it?
Or no, I think it's you.
It's me?
Yeah.
All right.
You didn't get my email.
I did not.
Okay.
It's been a busy week. All right. Next, we want to thank the staff members that have helped us with the intern program this year. And that would be Nina Maflosky and Claudia Miller. So very special thanks to both of you for making the intern program happen. Does that mean I have to do the next one too?
For not checking your email?
Yeah. Oh, I meant because it's
No,
still
just
interns.
kidding, just kidding. I think
This-
Albers is going to do this one.
This one is me. We also wanted to thank the intern host families for opening their doors to the interns this past fall. And so you'll see that we have quite a few families that have welcomed them into their homes and given them a place to be while they're living abroad, which is great. So thank you to the Tice family and to the Bhakti family and the Dreyers Stengel's, Kruger's, Murtha's, Partenheimer, Kosher Fresh, and Auerbach families for hosting the interns.
All right. Thank you so much.
Before we move on, can I add one thing
Sure.
about somebody in the room?
Sure.
I was gonna try to jump in after Elizabeth was done, but you moved on too quickly.
Sorry.
But I also wanted to thank Isabel, wherever you are, for stepping up. You continue to impress me when you stepped up in your role at the school. You impressed me, and helping out with Kim and everything. You're always easy to work with and willing to learn new things, and that's an admirable quality. So thanks for all you do.
We'll also add that she took on the fundraising committee too. She's become a staff member that is on the fundraising committee, doing all of our data and accounting for our fundraising as well. So the list just keeps going, Isabel.
No, it's the open phone, but it's still-
Sure.
All right, I just want to say, the main reason I'm here, I want to share the recognition with everybody in here, with everybody who's working for the school. It's a team effort. And I mean, it's really, the team makes the dream work in this case.
That's true.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. It's always nice when people come in.
It's Marie too, coming in from the council. Hi.
I guess I'm actually because I'm the host.
Oh, you were on the host family. Did we?
I think that's okay.
That's why, okay. Well, thank you for hosting the intern. That's fantastic. Wonderful. Excellent. All righty. Well, now on to the presentations. So I will have you guys, do you want to step up to the table?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And you can join us up here.
And then I did send Kevin,
Yep.
slide.
You got everything?
I am Kevin.
Too good, you are.
Sorry.
You said you're gonna do it in German, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So I think the full proposal from Mighty Consulting from Roger and Melissa is linked in the board packet, and we've all had a chance to review that at our committee of the whole meeting that was held. When did we meet? Earlier this month. We don't
3
usually
weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. So we have had the chance to review it. But I'm just gonna let you guys take it from there and introduce yourselves.
Great, yeah, we'll just introduce ourselves, do a really high level look at the proposal, and then be wide open for questions and conversation about how we would approach it if we were selected. So I'm Roger Meyer, have been doing work with nonprofit organizations for about 26 years, originally as Meyer Consulting, and now for the last 4 years as Mighty Consulting, and have always had strategic planning as part of the work that I do with small nonprofits, including charter schools. I have a connection to German Immersion School. In addition to that, my brother's children went through the Feilmeyers here. I was just at the Iron Ranger with Jim Pearson, who was a founding board member of the school. So I haven't been deeply involved or know everything about y'all, but I do know enough about the school and have worked with other charter schools before in strategic planning and interim roles. So and we'll go over a little bit about our approach, but that's me, and I'll let Melissa introduce herself.
Sure. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Melissa Martinez Soames. I am a co-owner and Roger's business partner at Mighty Consulting. We've been working together, I don't know, 11 years together. We do the same work as consultants, the strategic planning, interim leadership, executive director search, project management, supporting nonprofits of varying sizes, and happy to be here and talk you through the way we approach the work and answer questions. I have no connections to German Immersion, but I live in St. Paul. And my children have certainly had friends over the years that attended, but yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks for coming, guys.
So you've had a chance to look at our proposal. We just want to kind of give you the overview, and we've had a chance to look at your existing strategic plan, and that's not what we're going to do for you. So, we heard pretty clearly from Kirsten that what you're looking for is a very concise guiding document that helps get you all on the same page as a board, as parents, as staff, to make sure that you're heading in the right direction as a group. I just heard some great, I love the fact that you have recognition on your standard board agenda. I think that's phenomenal. And the way organizations work is they do things as a group. You as a board have to be on the same page with each other, staff have to be on the same page with the board, parents have to be on the same page with you all. So that's our specialty, is we really like doing strategic plans that aren't lengthy and that are very clear and bring together what you all have to say. So can you go to the next slide?
Yes.
So the way so we already talked a little bit about who we are. We have several subcontractors and coworkers on our team for this project. We were going to be suggesting that we use Jen Thorson, who's unable to participate because of a family health emergency. And so Melissa will be taking the lead on this project. But what we love about, I used to do this by myself, and then Melissa and I used to do it just the two of us. And what we love about our model is we have this great group of really smart people that we can go back to. You might never see them on this project, but we have access to them when we come across an issue, when we want to bounce around ideas. So that's us. That's our recent holiday party where we got Mighty Consulting beanies for everybody. So it was a lot of fun. So the process that we tried to capture in our proposal is we want to prepare for the process. We suggest getting a small group of you together and really clarifying what's the deliverable you're looking for us to do. In this room, there's a bunch of people. You might have 6 different ideas about what a strategic plan looks like. We can't be successful unless we know what you want us to do. So we get really clear on what the deliverable is, what the timeline is, and what the process we're going to use is. And we use a small group of you all to do that. We don't tell you, we help you tell us. In order to make good strategic decisions, you have to have information. As a board member, you know some things, you don't know others. So we make sure we're gathering information to present to you to help you make informed decisions. We talked about parent survey, student survey, gathering information from you all. And that's what we use to fuel a gathering of you all at a retreat, to make sure you're grounded in reality and grounded in the same information. And then we facilitate that retreat to draw out the content that's going to go into the plan. We don't end the retreat with a final plan. We don't spend time at the retreat wordsmithing. It's really to make sure you all are on the same page and that we hear disagreements and we either resolve them or call them out for resolution. But the retreat is really the opportunity to take the information you've been shown and had a chance to look at and get your thoughts and feedback with each other. And we're there to capture it and feed it back to you. Discuss, decide, and document. Then we take that information that came from the retreat and we go back to that smaller group and show you drafts, get your feedback and input, and do an iterative process to make sure that everybody's in agreement, that the wording is clear, and that we have a document that you all can agree to. What we like about that process and what we see in a lot of other strategic plans, to avoid conflict or to make a lot of people happy with it, the wording gets squishy and it can mean a lot of different things to anybody who reads it. What we really like is a document that you all share an understanding of the words on the page and it's super clear so that you can use it to guide you all through challenging times. So that's what we do in that process after the retreat. Then we have in our proposal just to help get that presented to the board for adoption, finalize the deal, make sure there's adequate buy-in at the board and everybody's had a chance to participate. And then for this process, we put in the support for you all to take that strategic document, which is a one-pager, and then create those implementation plans, whether that's a board plan, staff plan, whatever. But we can provide support to you all as an organization to have that first year or so with an implementation plan. So this is the process that we tend to use, and it looks a little bit different for every organization, but it's the same theme.
Can we jump in with questions or?
Yeah.
So how this, when you said you've done other charter schools before, how do you tailor this, or is this specific to like a charter school model?
This is not specific to a charter school.
Okay.
I think what would change with the charter school and what changes with our organization is who are we gathering information from? How involved are your, because parents are obviously a huge part of a charter school, whereas some nonprofits might not have that much engagement with the people they're serving, right? Yeah. And so that's how I think we would want to shape this to make sure it's reflective of a charter school.
Okay.
And reflective of you also have different guardrails on what you can and can't do and what your success looks like because of your regulatory environment and the chartering institutions and all those things.
I think during the prepare part of the process, that's when we really look to you to tell us who are these key constituencies, right? Is it parents or is it some subgroup of parents or, because we wouldn't presume to know that. And that's why we spend time at the front end getting really clear and prepared together so that you can tell us, hey, these are the 3 groups. I'm just gonna make that up. That it's critical to inform this process. And then we say, great, we'll make sure those 3 groups are connected with. But high level, this is how we generally approach our process. Because every organization we work with does have constituencies. We just need to know who they are and understand the value that they bring to the process.
Can you talk a little bit about how you collate that information and how you present that, especially if and how you help organizations work through if, let's say, constituency A has big ideas in this area, constituency C has big ideas in a completely opposite area, and what your kind of process for helping organizations work through that and identifying those?
I can start. So this is my favorite part, is to kind of look at the universe of information that we've gotten back and to try and make sense of it. And sometimes, to tell you how the sausage is made, I literally sit with pages and a highlighter, right? And kind of deep dive into the information that we've gotten back, whether it was surveys or interviews or however we collected it, and have it all over my desk and put my nerd glasses on and get my highlighter and really dig in. The point in doing that is to pull out key themes, right? So that you don't have to, or you all don't have to read, I don't know, 50 pages of data, but I can say, I read it and all those 50 pages are available to you if you want to read them. Here are the 10 key themes that I see and that I'm hearing. And generally what happens is when I tell you what those are, I look around the room and people say, yeah, I thought we were going to hear that. I'm quite certain we were going to hear that. I'm a little surprised about this one. And then we have some of that conversation together, right? So that's how we kind of start that make sense of it process. And then we become partners in figuring out what does that mean.
The only thing I would add, I think it's she does way better with the big spreadsheets and information and things.
Glasses.
But we're gonna show you the themes, whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
And we're gonna call out the differences because what we're not telling you tonight is expertise in charter schools or how to run a German immersion school. That's you all's job. Our job is to point out where you have challenges. Hey, parents really want you to do this. Your board really wants to do this. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're just going to show you that and let you know a decision needs to be made to move forward. So, and I think we're very good at listening and feeding back without bias. So we're not going to show you information that clearly shows like, well, we think they should do that. So let's make sure we present it that way.
And it's a lot easier for us to do that because we aren't invested in the outcome.
Right.
We don't have any skin in the game. So we can say, hey, folks, we know these are hard questions or these are hard things that you have to work through, but we're going to kind of keep putting them in front of you because we also don't want to pretend like they're not there. Right. And that's much easier for us to do as neutral outsiders.
And in the retreat, that'll look like us saving space for when you two don't get along and disagree.
That should never happen.
I mean, that's what we facilitate towards is making sure everybody had a chance to, we don't facilitate towards 100% agreement or false agreement. It's like, hey, this is a tough one, but we got to at least get clear on where people are. And so that's how we facilitate that retreat.
On that same note, as also being a parent at the school, what does that engagement look like, right? We get a lot of emails already, no offense, Elizabeth, and a lot of times our parent community just doesn't have the time to engage. When you've worked with other charter schools in the past or other schools, what has that engagement look like? And
I'll share an example I've used, and the first thing we try and do is get really clear on what we're asking. So it's not ambiguous.
Right.
So that you get input you can't use because you say, hey, what should we do in the future? And people just start throwing things that don't, right, that don't help. So we get really clear on the questions. We've done, I've done surveys on an iPad at a parent fair or when parents come into an event, have them do something online. We've sent home things in backpacks to fill out. I mean, it can be whatever you all, like, you know how your parents are engaged. A party, if I think we had talked about, maybe there's some spring gatherings.
Oh, the festival cultures.
Festival cultures, like, why not have a booth there?
Yeah.
Why not ask, again, it doesn't need to be boring, it can be fun, but it just is a way to, however your parents will engage. Let's make sure that we're gathering the information we want from them.
So I have 3 children. I mean, Lord help me with the emails, right? I think thinking creatively about how you can meet parents where they're at, how can you make it easy? How can you make it not like another task that they have to slog through at the end of the day? And we can be creative about that. Maybe it's being on site, maybe it's thinking about a different data collection tool, but something to make it so that it's not quite so challenging to take the time to thoughtfully respond. And I would say that then, if you're looking at, let's say you've completed information gathering, at least as far as the time you allotted, and you heard from 3 parents, right? Then we would come back and say, this is probably not enough.
Right.
We can flag those things for you, or we heard from 85% of parents. That feels like a huge win, right? I mean, that would be, okay. I thought that would be pretty high. So we can talk through that together. Like, we're getting great feedback, lots of robust participation, or not. And then how do we adjust to make sure we're hearing?
Do you have experience? So our issue is going to be, calling it right now, we're going to hear from 20 parents at least, but it's going to be, yeah, so I can name them right now. Do you have experience trying to figure out how to engage those parents that aren't normally,
I mean, well, I don't, we have experience and we have ideas and you can help us get to it. That might be one-on-ones or a small group that we only invite the people that have something to say, but won't be the participants, and also you all calling attention to hey, board, we know we're going to hear from these 20, let's listen to them, but let's also not only listen to them, right? Let's figure out a way when we have all the data to call out what's the data that we're getting from different sources than usual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that we don't appreciate you 20 that are always around.
No, that's you don't want to base your plan and your strategic direction on only the most vocal, loudest voices, because that isn't going to give you a representation of your student body or the input you need.
Yep, exactly. So that I was also going to ask, in your longer proposal, it says meet with key stakeholders, which is obvious. And I know you said, we will identify some of those, but are there people that you would view as key stakeholders that a conversation will sit down and have, or you'll be like, well, what about this position? this position should maybe have some input or something like that.
I think once we got started, we would look at how you run and where you're and again, nonprofits would have funders they might want to talk to. You might want to decide, your staff input could vary as to what, is it groups of teachers and your administrators and how you gather that information. We'll ask questions that help you tell us who are those people that are going to be important for you to hear from. That's kind of a non-answer, but I mean, the intent of this information gathering is this is information you should want to get in order to make good strategic decisions. We don't want to fill up our hours and our information with information that isn't relevant from people that don't have a stake or any interest in the school. So
it's also pretty common, I think, in that initial planning phase where we start talking about who do we need to talk to and who is it important to talk to, that the brainstorming starts to happen really fast. And when you get that group together, it's it becomes like, oh, you know who I thought of,
Right.
and people kind of feed off of that, and it really initially creates a pretty big, broad group of people to talk to, that then you kind of have to like, well, we can't talk to everybody,
Right.
right? So we gotta like kind of focus it in a little bit. So usually it's about like kind of prioritizing as opposed to we didn't find enough people to talk to.
I think that's right.
Got it.
Can I ask a question in the prepare process?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would kind of, currently our strategic plan, one thing I do appreciate about it is it kind of has these buckets of focus, right?
Mhm.
Academics,
Yep.
Community, I don't remember what they all are.
Mhm.
Is that part of the prepare process, is where you kind of have those higher level conversations? Like, as we prepare to gather the information, we know we need to focus on these kind of high level topics, or is that done later or
No.
based on the?
Man, I hope we have the same answer. but-
I don't know, let's see.
It's a little, yes, and,
Mhm,
I mean, I think we start with how you look at your work right now.
mhm,
You have a strategic plan, you have work that's happening. And so in that prepare process, we'll come up with what we think are probably the themes that we need to get information on. And then that gathering of information actually reinforces that and or changes it a little bit. So we don't lock in and say we're only gonna limit it
mhm.
in the prepare process to the 3 areas that we agree to, but we do want to get, in order to ask good questions, we do need to kind of frame it up.
Guidelines, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it's both. We do the framing up to make sure that the information gathering is gathering the right types of information, putting it in the right categories, and we allow for expansion of that as you all get together and start looking at it.
I would almost think, I mean, we're close, we're close. I would almost think of it as another data point, right?
Mhm.
Rather than I need to take all the new work we've done or are doing and try and shoehorn it into this
Mhm.
framework. This framework is part of kind of looking at the whole landscape.
Mhm.
And then if I'm seeing a big departure from that, then that's something I call out. Like, hey, folks, last time you said it was this, this, and this, and all the other things I'm hearing say it's this, this, and this. How do we reconcile that, right? And that we kind of put that back. Like, I didn't hear about students. That seems unlikely, but right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
call that out.
Right.
So it's kind of folded in, so it is kind of both and. It gets folded in, but it's also helpful to know at the beginning what that original framework is.
And we didn't ask how long we have with the presentation, so.
Yeah. No, we got a couple minutes. I think I'll give you guys a chance to just touch on anything in your.
Yeah, then can you go to the last slide? So we just wanted to talk about our business model and how we do it, because there was some questions that Kirsten had said, like, talk to us about how you do the
Billing and-
thing. So again, we'll have Melissa as the primary consultant with other people operating behind the scenes to support that. We do hourly billing, monthly billing. We show you at the end of each month on April 1st, we spend 2 hours in this meeting and very high level stuff. And that's how we keep in conversation with you about the overall cost of the project. And that's where we can negotiate like, oh, you're not spending enough time on this. We'd like you to spend more, or oh, we're running up against some issues here. Let's figure out a way to keep your hours lower. We're very open and transparent with how we're spending our time and like the data gathering piece. If that's something we can do a little bit of time on, and you can have the board and parents take over some of the like staffing the booth at the fair to get the information. You know, we're really supportive of engaging you all in whatever level you want to be involved with in this. So that's sometimes how we balance our hourly fees. And then it's that flexibility. Really, we're working for you. We're not trying to maximize the number of hours we're spending. We want to deliver the product that we agreed to at the beginning at or below that's why I always said up to 6 hours up to this, because we think we can get it done in that amount of time. That's how we operate and how it would work.
I have one other question and then I'm done, I promise. I saw it's 3 years. Just curious about that. Was that by our request, or is that a standard you go by?
Yes and yes. I believe that was a request.
We talked about, is
Okay.
it more realistic to create a 3-year plan, just given the kind of changing nature that is the education world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, I mean,
And
I'm
it's
sure we could
standard.
do a,
And that-
No, we don't recommend
Oh.
going, we think that people's brain kind of shuts off after 3 years. Like it's hard, the world is in such a dynamic place right now in the nonprofit sector and the education sector that to play out. We used to do 10-year plans and now that's not even a thing at all. And so what we're seeing standard is a 3-year.
Okay, I completely lied. I have one more question. I know we want to go with the concise. I know we want to go with the concise document. Our last strategic plan did have milestones in it, and however, there was way too many and everything. Is that something that can be a part of this conversation?
Yeah, no, and what's part of the conversation is anything you want it to be and us reminding you that you wanted it to be concise. So that and no, I think it's really smart to capture those. And the last thing I'll take. What we want to do is leave you with that clear, concise document. That doesn't mean we won't help create or support you in the creation of other documents that support that, like the annual implementation plan or key milestones. We just want to make sure we leave you with that high level clarity as a board and as an organization to know like we're on track.
Right. That in my mind is the public facing one.
Yep, correct. Yep, correct.
That's right.
Something that people read
And
after.
honestly, when
Right,
a
and
new
clear it up.
person comes in, joins the board or a parent and they see it, like, oh, I get it.
Right.
It's not jargony, it's not, you know, a 20-page document, but it's really clear where someone can immediately see it and understand, oh, I see what they're after,
This is why
That's
they made
that
that decision. This is
public
why we're
facing.
doing that effort.
for sure.
any other final questions? From anyone?
Great.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
coming.
Great to be
It was
here.
lovely to
Thank
meet you in
you.
person.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think I walked by the Lost and Found.
Oh, yeah.
Hysterical.
It is. It is.
Just emailed about that today.
Did you- Okay, you got Aaron's email about that?
No, not.
You can put a survey on all the things that they come.
Yeah, there you go.
If your child is one.
And they'll all say, yeah.
Yeah.
They did all.
When my kid came home with one boot, I'm like, how is that possible? And I found out there's like 400.
So you can see it.
Thank
Awesome. Thank you so much.
you. I expect that to be for your first retreat.
Yeah, we usually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is at an all-time high right now. All right, and I think our next presenter, thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good
Yeah.
day.
Thank you so much.
This was with Jim Pearson and yes, John Wright. And he's like, I think I know the preacher.
I recognize that name. All right. Wonderful. Is Gail here?
Yes.
Awesome.
I am.
Hi,
How are
Gail.
you?
Hi, Gail.
Hi, Gail.
Good to see you all.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. So I'm guessing you want me to just go ahead. That's the plan?
I think that would be great. The board has read your full proposal, so
Okay,
we're
good.
familiar with that. So thank you for putting that together for us. And I know you and Elizabeth have also had some conversations. But yeah, if you could just kind of give us a quick rundown of how you work with schools to do some strategic planning, that would be wonderful.
Okay, absolutely. And thanks for letting me listen in on the Mighty Consulting Group. It's always fun to hear people that have that same interest that I have with strategic plan and learn a little bit more from them. So for those of you that I have not had a chance to meet before, my name is Gail Gilman. I serve as the Director of Strategic Planning and Board Leadership with Minnesota School Boards Association. Been at the association since 2017 and came there by way of a long career with University of Minnesota. I was on the faculty there. My background is in family and youth education, and both of my degrees are from the U of M. Actually, I'm wearing the colors tonight too. I just realized that, a little bit of maroon. So go Gophers, I guess I have to say. I spent a few years with Minnesota Board on Aging and then started again in 2017 with Minnesota School Boards Association. Like the group of you sitting around the table, I'm a former school board member. I served on the New Ulm Board of Education for a couple of terms. And during those years, I served as both vice chair and clerk. So when Elizabeth first contacted me and I saw the German, I'm sure you're all familiar with our City of Charm and Tradition here in southern Minnesota. And so it's just fun because I'm not fluent in German, but I do recognize a lot of the words and can speak a few phrases. So very, very fun in that respect. A little bit about MSBA with strategic planning. We've been offering this service since 2015. We at this point, we're on about 105 strategic plans. We serve schools of all sizes and shapes around the state of Minnesota. Obviously, our largest cohort are the traditional public schools. I've also worked with a lot of charter schools, service co-ops, and education districts in providing strategic planning services. I think I have done probably 75 of them on my own. And with our strategic planning process, we call our strategic plan a visionary roadmap. So for you, we're creating that roadmap of where you're hoping to head in the next 3 to 5 years. And in our process, I always say that we are extremely inclusive and extremely transparent in how we manage and facilitate the process. And I also like to say that it's important to bring all the voices and all the values to the table throughout your process. We start with surveys, both an internal and an external, followed by a series of listening sessions with all of your school community member groups. So that could be your students, you as a board, your staff, the administrative team, and then community members, and whatever community means for you. So obviously it's going to be your parents, but I know that you have other partners in the process that you work with. It might be community groups. And so hearing from all of them in listening sessions. And then to create the plan, I like to work with 3 strategic planning committee meetings. And the committee would be made up of all of your board members and most of your administrators. And then again, all the cohort groups or all the community groups as members of that committee. Again, students and staff, licensed and non-licensed, administrators, and then the overall community representation. Each of the 3 strategic planning committee meetings have a specific activity or focus, with the first one being set the stage of what's currently happening at your school. And then at that point, I will have an engagement report that has been created so I can let the group know what we've learned through the surveys and also through the listening sessions. The group start sifting through the information, and it's amazing, but they start identifying what some of your strategic focus areas are for your next strategic plan. It never fails. There's a given in the process that I provide, and that's your number one focus area will be student academic achievement, because as board members, that's what we are all about. So we want to really start with that as the basis, but then learn from the surveys and listening sessions what some of those other strategic focus areas might be. And they, just for your information too, that might be something with staff support. If you're working on facilities, it could be that as another focus area. If there's some financial challenges or areas that you want to focus on, could be curriculum, could be culture and climate. So those are just some ideas of what sometimes come forward with the strategic planning focus areas. Some other things that I think you might be interested in is that as we wrap up the process, and I'm giving you a big overview because I think you're a group that has a lot of questions, so I'm going to pause in a second and let you ask away. I'm really impressed by that too. So as we kind of wrap up in that process, I always like to have a session with the board and your administrators, and we talk about what that strategic plan is looking like, the draft strategic plan. And then I also have a tool that we use that's unique to our organization and kind of one of our signature pieces. It's called the School Board Self-Evaluation. And during the process, I'll have board members and your executive director take it. The School Board Self-Evaluation ties to the 5 standards of board leadership, which are conduct and ethics, vision, structure, accountability, and the 5th one is advocacy and communication. The benchmarks for all the standards are really based on having a strategic plan. in place. So it's a tool and kind of a gift that I give you at the end of the process that helps you understand how you're going to govern with your new strategic plan. It also empowers you. It helps your community understand, your school community understand where you're headed over the next 3 to 5 years. And so it just really brings everything together nicely for you as a group. So with that, I'm going to pause. And what kind of questions? I've got plenty of other things I can share with you, but what things would you like to know a little bit more about?
One thing that stuck out to me right away was it was phrased internal and external stakeholders
Yes.
with the sense of the school community. What are you referring to with internal and external?
So with the internal survey, it would be what you would probably consider to be obvious, and that would be your staff, licensed and non-licensed, you as board, and also all of your administrators. The external survey is for your students, parents, guardians, and then anyone else that you've identified as a community partner that you are working with or networking with. Each of the surveys is about 25 questions. I actually customize them. So I start with a template that I'll share with your executive director and board chair to look at initially to just say, yep, this really fits our school, or nope, we need to add this question. And then I always want the entire board to see the survey before we share it with your school community. The internal really relates to the internal operations, culture and climate, support from administration, the board's decisions. The external survey is going to talk about big picture of systems that you have, your facilities, is your child receiving an education that's preparing them for the future and things like that. So that's the internal and external surveys.
Following up on that, Gail, who has the nerd glasses, to use Melissa's term? Who's doing the number crunching from the surveys?
Oh, we do that internally. So I have a large team that I work with. I'm the face of the process, and I facilitate the process. I come with no agenda or anything. I'm here to listen and synthesize. But as far as the crunching of everything, the behind the scenes, I have other folks like me who have the board development expertise. We actually have one staff person on board who is a former charter school. She left charter school to come work with us. So she is available. I have a communications team that I work with. We have our general counsel, if there's anything legal that we need to address, our management services who looks at policies. So I think our team is there's about 10 other staff that would help in that process. And so when I come to you with the engagement report, the numbers would be crunched and have kind of a summary of what we've learned from both the surveys and also from the listening sessions. So thank you for that question. Other things you're wondering about?
Can you go back to the 3 meetings? Because it seems like that's kind of where the work gets done.
Yes.
And I mean, I am just like in awe that you would do the majority of this in 3 meetings. And can you just talk through that just a little bit more? Because it seems like a rather large group to be able to have an effective kind of working meeting. And obviously you're very skilled in that. So can you just walk through that process a little bit?
Oh gosh, absolutely. So each of the 3 meetings has a specific task. And I would agree with you that it sounds pretty daunting. And I hear that all the time. And usually I start the process, by just talking about the fact that you're not going to believe what we're going to accomplish in 3 meetings. And each of those 3 meetings are usually about 2 hours, by the way, too, just so you know. So the first meeting truly is setting the stage of what's currently happening in your school. And then I'll talk about what we learned in the surveys and listening sessions, and then facilitate a discussion with the small groups representing each of your stakeholder groups, and give them some guidance in how they start sorting through and what they see as some of the key priorities, issues, challenges. So that's very simplified. The second meeting, we work on 2 things. First, we come back and we start talking about what we're seeing as focus areas. And I will have, and my colleagues will have done the crunching again of the information, and I'll bring forward what I'm seeing as some possible focus areas. And again, I'll be very transparent and upfront that as board members, we're all about student academic success, so that will be one of the big areas that we'll work within. And then I will explain some of the others that I'm seeing and why. So what is it that makes me suggest staff support would be a focus area? Here's the things that we've learned, or what is it about facilities, or whatever else emerges. At the second meeting, we also talk about what I consider the foundational elements of your strategic plan, and that's core values, belief statements, mission statement, and vision statement. And I will work with the committee in identifying, revising, first of all, if you have those in place, and you want to keep one or all of them, I will talk about the importance of them and how they tie to your strategic plan. If you have some that need to be revised, we'll revise. If you don't have any, we'll create those from scratch. And so that'll be all small group process. Second meeting, we come back together. We start with the foundational elements again. And in between meetings, I will have done the crunching, so to speak, and we'll have come up with the top 2 mission statements and the top 8 belief statements and the top 6 core values and the top maybe 2 or 3 vision statements. And the group will talk about where they want to land with that and give some recommendation. With the committee, I prefer that they not write anything in formal format. I like to just gather that information, and then I'll work with what I call a writing team of your executive director and whoever else we decide to help create what those final recommendations will be for you. And then at that third meeting, we also will start looking at draft goals and objectives. And I have learned from the past that no community members should be writing the goals and objectives for your administration. So I also work with a writing team within your school in creating the draft goals and objectives. And I do that because it really sets the stage. It's going to be your administrators who are going to be carrying out that work. So they might as well have input into how it's set up, how it's worded. However, the transparency piece is that we bring the draft goals and objectives to your strategic planning committee to just reflect and say, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Once in a while, they'll say, except we did talk about XYZ related to curriculum. Should we incorporate something like that? And so that's really the discussion. And in between the 3 meetings, there's usually a little task that I will give your committee members too. And I always say, if you got time to do it, that's fine. But there's always people out there that want to be prepared. They want to dig in. And so that way they have something to kind of keep them entwined with the work that we're doing. So that's how those 3 meetings unfold. Sounds impossible, but it really works.
Yeah, I thought, so there's subcommittee meetings in addition to that. Are those subcommittees focused on certain areas of the strategic plan, or are they focused on certain stakeholder groups, or?
So there really isn't the subcommittee so much. It's the whole committee that meets at each of the 3 meetings. And where it might be a subcommittee or a writing team, it would be me working with your executive director and select administrators in between. And the two primary things would be the draft goals and objectives, and then after the process, honing in on what the draft strategic plan should look like for you. So that's really how I work with a smaller team.
Is the deliverable, does it also include milestones in terms of activities that need to be executed to achieve the strategic plan?
So what you will end up with your, and I love that question. So what you will end up as a board is what we call a plan on a page. It's kind of another signature piece of ours. The plan on the page will have your foundational elements on the front page. So core values, beliefs, mission, vision, your focus areas. And then on the second page, it will be your focus areas in addition to their goals and objectives. The objectives will have measures on them. So that's kind of the deliverable that you'll get with your strategic plan. And then in answer to your question about the milestones, activities, action steps, there's another document that I will provide your executive director that I call a reporting/action form. And that I really feel is an internal document for administrators to determine who's going to do things, when they're going to do them, what's the timeline on that. And so I'll work with you on that if you want to have discussions, or many times the executive director will just take that and run with it. And it will be based off of whatever those timelines are that are on your strategic plan. So if there's a timeline to take a look at, I'll just use staff support again, and maybe professional development as it relates to staff support, who's going to take the lead on it, when, and so those will be the items that will be included in that action step. But there is a form for that. That document, I always tell the executive directors, it can become an internal document that isn't necessarily shared. It's like a little work plan or a scratch sheet, or it can also be used as a reporting form for the board. So each school handles that differently. Does that help answer what you're asking with the milestones?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good.
Follow-up question.
Mhm.
Part of your proposal is also you offer a one-year follow-up.
Yes. And
How do I have to think about that? What will happen there?
so I am really flexible in a one-year follow-up. Because you're our association members, we value you. We never walk away from you. I always just feel the job's not done. And so I always say, whatever you need after you have adopted your strategic plan, I'm here for you. And if that means even a mid-year, 6 months later, or at the 1-year point, if you would like me to come back and we would revisit the board self-evaluation again, if you wanted me to help talk you through what are the successes from the past year, that's what we do. So I kind of let you customize that and what you need. And it's not a hard and fast rule either. I mean, if a year and a half later you say, Gail, we really need some help with something, I'm absolutely going to be there for you. Other schools have tapped into me sooner versus later. Things happen in communities. You have your strategic plan in place. And then somebody said before, I mean, we don't know in the next hour what we might need to know tomorrow for our students. And so if there are some big things, maybe the best example would be when COVID happened, and how do we transition? So if there's something even in the short term, and I've had a couple of schools where I've gone back with things that have happened in their school within 3 months, and we've just had a conversation about it. So whatever you need. Some schools have brought their strategic planning committee back together and done another kind of a realignment or visit. Some schools have had a huge turnover with their boards or a new executive director, and then it's an opportunity to come back and just get everybody on track again. So I am super flexible in whatever you need is how we will serve you.
Thank you.
This is a really basic question, but I just am not, and I'm not reading probably as close as I should, but do you do the 3-year plan, or is it a 5-year plan?
It's a 5.
We generally,
okay.
So I always say 3 to 5 years. We do set it up as a 5-year. We go with the intent that it's going to be a 5-year, and then we just kind of see how it unfolds, and it just varies. I think what you'll find is that there might be some things that you'll want to schedule out over the 5 years. And that's why it's a visionary roadmap. It's also flexible. So at the 1-year mark, maybe there's some things that you're going to need to tweak and adjust. You've got, you're open for that. I've had some schools that I've worked with now over the years where it was a 5-year plan. They accomplished everything in 3 years. And then I came back and helped them with a refresh of their strategic plan. So, yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that was impressive. I'm like, what? Yeah, I know, but it's happened a couple of times.
That's great.
I would like to explore a little bit more what the parent engagement looks like outside of that one survey. What does it look like if we don't get the responses we want, or we want to, do a follow-up, or, if we want individual parents to be able to sit down in a group and talk to you outside of that survey?
I am
Is
very
that something?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I'm very flexible with that too. So the surveys are done through SurveyMonkey. So it's a link. And a lot of times what the schools will do with the the external survey is use your email distribution list for parents and guardians. Start there and send it out to all of them to complete. It takes probably, for most people, I'm guessing probably 10 minutes or something to complete, 10 to 15 minutes. And so sending them out that way, we actually usually get really good response. So I'm kind of curious why you might not get, or you think you might not get the response that you're looking for. We do the same thing with the staff, send it out electronically, and also with the students. Students usually as young as 5th grade and older in getting their feedback. So we do the survey promotion 2 to 3 weeks before listening sessions happen. And that way we can gear up some excitement and, talk about what's going to be happening. I can monitor very quickly. I get a daily notification on the survey responses. And so then I can say, we're hearing from staff, but it doesn't look like you've sent anything out to your students yet, or we maybe need to do a reminder for your parents. And so that's really how we encourage folks to participate that way. In response to your small group, yes, absolutely. And that might even be in the form more of a listening session too, where, we sit down and just talk. And that happens a lot, where there are specialized groups, unique situations where it's just helpful to have that conversation.
Okay, yes, thank you. I'm not necessarily worried about it, engagement or anything. I just have a problem of thinking of all scenarios and what we're going to do about them.
Absolutely. And, I do provide a paper copy of both the internal and the external as well. And so that's certainly an option. If there's a location that you want to distribute it, you are more than welcome to do that. And then I just need those paper copies, and we do all the inputting into our SurveyMonkey. I also provide QR codes too for all of our all of the work that we do throughout the process, but certainly for the surveys too, so that if folks want to use that QR code, they can.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? I know we're coming up against time a little over.
Yeah,
you lost your lead.
I lost my lead, but I think it was worth it.
you're on track. Very good.
Yeah. No, well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Gail. It was really wonderful to hear a little bit more about your process and the plan. So we appreciate you taking the time.
Yep, I appreciate your time too. And I have worked with a lot of charter schools. So if you do need names of any of those, just let me know and I'll provide them, and you can use them as references as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your meeting. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Righty. Wow. That's a lot of sitting and listening. So I think it's good to take a quick recess, stretch our legs, grab a snack. So we will recess now, and let's regroup at 10 to 8, just to give ourselves a full 10 minutes. So we'll be back at 7:50. All right, it is 7:51, 7:02, and we'll call this meeting of the Twin Cities German Immersion School back to order. Our next item on the agenda is just time for the board to discuss the 2 proposals that we just heard from Mighty Consulting as well as MISBA. So I will open the floor to hear anyone's feedback, insights, questions, concerns, worries.
As we said, I said during recess, it's 2 good options.
Yep.
So I heard strengths in both of them that are different from each other. And so and also concerns also, right? I guess question is, when do we decide, and where's that right now on who we pick? I think we got some more work to do, right, to review it, or?
Well, I think that's certainly something we can discuss. I would like to have a decision made by the end of our next committee of the whole meeting, just because we do need to kind of, I think, get on the calendars of either whoever we choose, just to make sure that we can get this wrapped up by the next school year.
I wonder if that needs to be a follow-up question that we ask, because I talked to Gail. It's turning February, probably a couple months ago, and I know she was filling up fast.
Okay.
And so if her timeline doesn't even work with us, that I'll send her a quick email.
Okay.
Have we set expectations with either of them when we'll make a decision?
No, I set expectations with Gail about when we wanted to get started, and at the time that worked in her calendar.
I did not make any promises. I did kind of indicate that we would like to make a decision around this time so that we had enough time to kind of get rolling and give ourselves that leeway to have a good product by August, realistically. The other
I feel
interesting,
confident working with either of these that we'll get a good product. I would be panicky about going forward in the 25-26 school year without a strategic plan.
yes, I share that panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, from my
I don't.
perspective, both, I believe, can flip the bill, what we need. I do believe MESPA would be a better choice because of the background that they continuously working with schools. While Mighty definitely has their experience, I think the specifics that surround the school with the laws and regulations that we are facing as a school. I'm not 100% sure they fully understand the requirements that we face versus with MESPA. That's the bread and butter.
I did appreciate the kind of governance piece of the MESPA proposal as well, in terms of that helping the board be even more effective leaders by kind of reviewing how that plan fits into that work. That was something
To
that
piggyback off that, I looked at the example that I have from a friend who's worked with them, and they have on the same graphic as their strategic plan, they have the I don't know what those are called, but they're from the authorizer, and they're the deliverables for the authorizer, and they've worked those in to the strategic plan. So that tells me that there's a real connection between our responsibility to UST and then what our stakeholders are providing us as a vision.
My concern with the MESBA one was on the information gathering, will they be able to get enough stakeholder input? I don't doubt they will, just based on the number of these things that she said they have done. And so they probably have it dialed down, but it just seemed not as engageful, if that's a word, as the one we heard from Mighty.
Yeah, one. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I agree. It felt a little more cookie cutter to me. And I would like to see something more innovative, which is why I liked personally Mighty Consulting, because they bring a fresh lens. Rather than here's the template we use, here's the template of questions we use, pick and choose what questions instead of starting from scratch. So that's where I lean.
I think that kind of lines up with where I was initially landing, but I was curious to Kirsten and Elizabeth, is there a sense of which one would be more useful given where the board is at, where the school is at, kind of what we're thinking? Because I can see both serving a good purpose.
Right.
Well, I took notes during both of them, and I was writing a storm when Gail started talking about the executive director involvement, which was completely different than the Mighty one. I don't know where I've landed on that. Part of me is very excited and thinks like, yes, there's a lot of vision that I have. I can't wait to pull in the feedback, and then there's also okay, well,
Elizabeth just got busier.
And I don't know where I land on that, but to me, it does tell me that Gail understands the role.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting point. I think she said something along the lines of no community member should be writing your strategic plan.
Yeah.
It really, because the work falls to your administrative team to execute. The board has oversight And so that did resonate with me when she mentioned that as well, because clearly she has an understanding of how to implement, and who needs to be involved in that implementation. So, I don't know who just mentioned the engagement piece, though. I do feel like Mighty was a bit more creative in how we could engage different groups. And I think that that's one of the things that I personally am looking for from this process is how do we engage as many stakeholders in helping us shape this plan in a way that people feel buy-in and they feel like ownership of the plan. So Gail sounded like she would offer flexibility, but
I feel like in their initial process, when they sit down, that's when we would tell them how much we want the executive director involved or not. Which is why I think they didn't give us a here's who we involve, because they want to get to know us and our goals and our process first before they come up with that, rather than just slotting in what they normally do.
Yeah, didn't Mighty also say they work with schools, so they have
before, but it's not their specialty.
Okay, but maybe if they have, so they might have experience with policies, with like what to consider, because I don't think we really specifically asked them how aware they are of it. So maybe just a question to follow up.
That's fair.
Not only that, even an example, right? You shared, Elizabeth, the NOVA one at our retreat, and I thought that was well done. It would be interesting to see what Mighty has done, and if there are schools like you speaking with Nova and them recommending MESBA, if there's schools that would recommend them and what the outcome was and what that strategic plan looked like.
Yeah, I wonder if it's that we don't necessarily make a decision today. I wonder if it's taking them up on their offer to talk to some of the past clients that they've worked with.
I didn't hear them say that, though. I heard MESBA say it. Did they say
they
it?
have mentioned that they would be willing. They did send, I thought I forwarded the board the one pager from their work with NAMI.
Yeah, I think you did.
But I might have to go back and resend that. So it's a similar product in terms of a plan on a page, but their version of that. So I think I probably sent it back in December if people are searching, but
MISBA actually has in their proposal list of schools that we can go to
MISBA
for references.
It was the Mighty that I like them, don't get me wrong. It's just, have they done schools before to
probably not to the extent.
Not to the extent, because it seemed like they've done tons.
Yeah, when we first got these proposals, I was definitely on the I want to go with the one that does schools. And then somebody said wait, maybe that isn't necessarily a good thing. Maybe bring in somebody that's going to think a little differently could be a pro. And I definitely understand that sentiment now. With Mighty, I think one of the biggest things for me is also the engagement part. And it's primarily because of the in-person versus all virtual. I just feel like the community engagement would be a lot stronger with them. I also want to, when I've been thinking about the strategic plan, board policies didn't cross my mind at all. Is that something that should be involved in a strategic plan, or is that just something MISBA does because they know schools that well? And reading things like review the board governance model, discuss the role of the board, executive director, and other advisory groups.
Or the mission, vision, and values thing.
Yeah, like that. And the mission, vision, and values really was are we signing on to change them?
I don't know that we can really change.
You know what I mean? It just, the MISBA one felt a lot more like institutional development versus a strategic plan, like our vision. My initial reaction, I almost asked Gail, but I didn't, was, can I a la carte what's on this from you? Because I definitely see so many things that would be beneficial to us here, but not necessarily to build a strategic plan. Like, can we hire you to review our board governance model outside of the premise of a strategic plan? You know, can you come into our spring retreat and talk about governance framework and teach us all about that? I don't see how that's relevant to a strategic plan, but I'm not, an expert at strategic plans. So while I see many things in the MISBA proposal that I think would benefit us, I think if there's access to that outside of the strategic plan, that would be a route I would be interested in exploring.
You know, one thought I had, and I asked Elizabeth as soon as the presentations were done, is if you would have asked me who did the Nova one that we all looked at and loved, I
You
would
would've
have
guessed.
thought Mighty Consulting.
100%.
And so that's why I asked you, because I was surprised. I assumed it was these guys. And maybe it was just in the presentation and in the way maybe she came across as, I've done a lot of these, I have templates.
Right.
It didn't seem too out of the box thinking, and not saying we need out of the box thinking. So, but then that changed my perspective on her when I saw the work, right? As opposed to maybe the presentation and the proposal.
Our ideas and our vision and our strategery can be creative. Like neither of them are going to provide the actual things that you're talking about creativity and format. I don't, am I getting that right, Director Smaka, when you're talking about creativity?
No, and creativity and engagement.
Yeah.
Engagement, I got it.
Yeah.
I think the reviewing the board governance model is ground setting, is level setting. I think it's just reminding everybody of roles. That's
Well,
what I
and
would
probably
guess.
how the strategic plan plays into our board governance,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
are not executing, we are
Yeah.
oversight.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts?
Would be curious to hear, Emily or Anna, your thoughts on as teachers, what did anything resonate from what you guys heard?
I mean, I just said to Emily, the second presentation kind of felt like we will have a staff meeting, like teacher staff meeting. And we kind of we're discussing things that we kind of I think aware of, because we do have the educational knowledge, and Mighty felt a bit like a fresh breeze. But then I don't know how experienced they are really with the schools, but
Yeah.
I think I heard that they said we had some, so maybe we just look at them. And I mean, schools always want to be safe, and that's why I guess the second proposal is kind of more safe.
Yeah.
But maybe safe is not always better sometimes. Yeah, we're working, and I also like the 3 years. I think it's kind of we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm torn. Basically the same thing that Anna said. I have another vested interest though in access to governance policies.
So, well,
I'm not gonna say that's gonna sway me by any means, but it is another
But that
piece from their puzzle.
as a member, right?
but I don't think we
know.
are actually
We're not
members.
MESBA members,
Oh,
we
that's
would have to
interesting.
be members to do the strategic plan.
Got it.
And then we would have access to all of their other,
So there's other.
there are other
yeah,
benefits,
it's not a-
correct?
It's an added bonus to it, but I mean, I think looking at it from a teacher perspective, we want, at least in my thought process, is we want to, obviously staff want to be involved in that internal, as Misbah and Gail said. But I think there's also something to be said about how many times are we meeting and how long? Is it a survey or that I can do on my couch? Or am I here? And I think there is weight to that based on just knowing our staff too. I am a little concerned though, just in general about surveys, and that's kind of a non-negotiable to some degree, but if, there was a booth that Mighty was talking about at Festival of Cultures or something like that too, though, that's enticing to me because as we know, we have trouble with surveys after a while, and why we've broken down surveys to smaller bits and pieces throughout the year. And so we want the feedback, and I've heard that concern amongst the rest of you as well. So making sure that that is something that we're at least thinking about in our choice, I think is important.
Right.
Also, I think probably it's a good thing, and I think it is, that she offered like this 1 year follow-up at the end.
Yeah.
But then I thought, I mean, if you're paying so much money and we're all committed, then we want to actually have an end product that works, right?
Mhm.
That I don't need to 1 year follow up, that this is what we do and this should be the end of it. So yeah, it's safer, but then what are our needs? There's no, what do we really want out of it?
Mhm.
More talking or actually finishing it?
Mhm.
And then there's the prices are different. The Mesbah was cheaper, about a third cheaper.
Did the
Oh, you have to join.
Oh, there's additional fees.
Yeah, to be members.
I think it's
So-
4,000 to join.
They'll probably cheaper.
Oh, so then it's about
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah,
Same.
and again, as the treasurer spending money, I'd like to say, I think either would be a great choice. I will say the same sentiment, like I liked what Mighty brought to the table. However, I will be happy with what the consensus is, either way. If we choose to go with Mighty, I will strongly recommend that we look at joining in Mizpah anyways. Because I definitely see the benefits
Joining.
that being a member can bring. And if anything, seeing what the benefits of belonging to Max has shown us in the last few weeks, it's
True.
it's worth it. It's a couple $1,000s, sure, but as a line item on our budget, it's not much, and I see huge benefits there. So I think Emily can have her policies regarding this.
If it's not, it's your lucky day. Well, I would propose that we maybe take one more week, contact some of the references, just to,
And ask for an example from.
and ask for make a school example,
Yeah.
from Mighty. And then commit to making a final choice by our committee of the whole, which is, I think, the 8th or 9th of February. The 13th.
So we should ask them if there's a deadline.
Yeah, so if you, I will take Mighty if you want to just follow up with Gail, or I already did. Gosh darn it, you're a good multitasker. Does that sound like a reasonable next?
Sounds
step? Okay.
reasonable.
And if there's a group that wants to be on those calls, when we contact references, just let me know.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need contact references, but I would like to see some materials.
Yep. Okay, perfect. All right, we will put a pin in that and commit to making a decision by our next committee of the whole. So thank you all for the discussion. Our next item on the agenda is the director's report. Great, so you're up.
I wanted to announce a guest who came in someplace in the first part of our first session. Our Dean of Data and Compliance, Esther Noy, is here to share the director's report with me today. Esther Noy, who wears many, many hats. One of them is to lead the school's calendar committee. And so at some point during the presentation, I will turn it over to her and she will present on the proposed calendar. I would have had Nicole Krashell here. She was also invited because we're gearing up towards our lottery. But if you know Nicole, she is going back to school and her evenings are taken. So she's here in spirit. All right, we'll start with some operational updates. December was a really big month, despite us only being here for 2 weeks. We had a couple of really important phone calls. One of them was the annual bondholder call that was on 12/18 for interested parties. They can click on that agenda. Director Reich, Director Hyde, and I attended that. And it was hosted by our accounting firm and our account manager, Kelly Rimpla. And basically we talked through changes that we've made to leadership. We talked through capital expenditures that we have planned. We talked through enrollment strategies, recruitment strategies, our retention model, And then they record the call, post it to the site that I can't remember, Richard. Emma.
Emma,
Thank you.
yes.
And then our bondholders can call in, check it out, and learn a little bit about where our status is. That actually occurred after number 2. The S&P Global Ratings Review also occurred, and that is where our credit rating is monitored, potentially changed. And there is a list of questions that they asked us along very similar lines, wanting to know why our enrollment had dipped and what our plans were. And the biggest thing that we focused on in that phone call was opportunity for them to get to know me. We talked about consistency and leadership being a big force in our forward momentum of TCGIS. And then despite our enrollment declining, we also took that opportunity to align our finances with it. So instead of plowing forward with a budget at a higher number, we scaled it back. And the big exciting news is that we went from negative outlook to stable. Yeah, applause.
Yeah.
Okay. The report you can see there and the letter that they sent us afterwards that gets sent, actually, I don't remember where the letter goes.
From the S&P?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Got it.
either.
But there is a letter. Yeah, you can read it. Good update on the ERC credit. We found out we had received an IRS letter, I think maybe in November, and our accountants looked into it. And instead of the IRS recalling funds that we'd already been given for the employee retention credit, it was actually just stating that there's a potential that we do not qualify for one of the quarters that we were still waiting for. We haven't heard anything right now. Our accountants are appealing. No, I haven't heard anything about it lately, but the good news is that all of the money that we have received from ERC credit is still in our accounts. New revenue source, the Blackhawks are big name in town, and they are trying out our facilities with a rental with a little $1,800 revenue increase. We're hoping to woo them and get them to stay for more next year.
Also great advertising.
Absolutely.
What are
Yeah.
they? Blackhawk?
They are a soccer team and they're using it for
the St. Paul
futsal.
Blackhawks.
The
Okay.
St. Paul Blackhawks.
Got it.
Yeah. Remember that our finances go 2 months back, so our cash on hand in November was 82. Our current enrollment was 560. Kelly and I adjusted it to match our average daily membership at this point, so we revised our working budget to 560. Our debt service coverage ratio is at 1.06. As a reminder, we need to be 1.0 to be above, to be at bond covenant, so we're above. And our fund balance projected is 27.4%. So all 4 indicators are looking good. The next couple of slides are enrollment. The current enrollment, I prepared this a couple weeks ago. It's actually fluxes. I always, on any given day, can tell you this number. I'll say that the number is a little bit lower today. We have 4 new students starting for the second semester. So whatever we're staying even, Stephen, whatever we've lost, we're going to continue to gain. The next slide is also interesting. Our current applications, as we continue to monitor those, I checked the numbers at the most recent email from Nicole Crashell. It's now 112. We got an additional 2 kindergartners and a second grader. So we're up to 82 in kindergarten. We are, if you look at the bar graph, sort of on track for January's of last year. Keep in mind that the green column was all the way through. And so we were a little bit ahead. Our kindergarten numbers, however, are not as high as they were last year in 24-25, but overall our numbers are. So we had a great event last night, the first annual January open house, HAUS, and it was well attended and super
You
fun.
did that last night.
Yeah, I did that too. And it was a great, we had alumni there to talk about our school. And honestly, we don't need to do anything else ever. All we need to do is bring in our TCGS alumni and let them talk. They sell the school in the way they speak about it, the way they love it, they're thinking fondly on it, they're talking about the relationships and friendships and experiences and opportunities that they have now as a result of it. They sell it, you guys don't need me, they sell it better than anybody. So thanks to them.
Before you
Can
go
I-
on, go ahead.
Yeah.
80 is a great number for kindergarten.
It's not a bad number.
What does it take to get to, I mean, that seems high for 3, right?
Well, we figure out what attrition will be and we get a little, and you keep going down. So if we got 10 more, I'd be really happy because I think then we'll be at a solid 3 sections.
Yeah.
So our goal is 10 more
Because generally we're gonna only see
with attrition.
like 70-80% of those come to the school. I will add, even though our kindergarten is only slightly higher, or not even, it's slightly lower than last year. We have to keep in mind that the Kinderstube
Yeah.
enrollment that year versus this year is way lower this year. So what we are doing, what Paige is doing, what Elizabeth's doing, what the staff is doing to engage the community is working. We just we're not getting what, 32
Yeah.
Kinderstube kids. Yeah.
It's like 25 maybe.
Yeah,
And this year
was
it's
huge.
6.
Yeah.
Wow.
Graduates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
So the efforts we've been. doing,
we're almost on
They
par
made up that.
dealing with a 20 student deficit to start. So
Yeah, thank you.
so it is working.
But
I'll also say, and I don't know what the birth rates are, but this class would have been born in
This is our
2020.
COVID year.
So this is very much a COVID year.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
something to keep in mind. I'm not a demographer.
I also feel really hopeful that the efforts, like it was such a good atmosphere last night of everybody that was there. You felt the vibe. It was well attended, so there was a lot of buzz. Like maybe we'll see our attrition numbers go down. Who knows? That'd be really great.
It was a really good event last night. We need to, I love that you kept saying first annual because that
Yeah.
needs to be an
Yeah.
annual thing,
And
if
maybe
not
even
twice.
held twice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was
for
great.
sure,
It was
for
great.
sure. That's a good idea. So these are some of the recruitment events then, Director Albers on the next slide that Paige has been working on. Midtown Global Market, we skimmed that down, but we did go in January and Paige made a great connection. In the next column, you see the KRSM radio advertisement. She connected with an organization there that wants to promote our school on their radio. And so she's working with them right now. It is a radio that is known for attracting listeners that are maybe of an immigrant population. So a really great way to get to a demographic that we don't always successfully get.
Is there a German on it?
In the,
KRSM.
I don't think so. I think it's Somali, Spanish for sure, and then Arabic, and then some other languages. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. The Minneapolis School Finder Fair was held and we had some teachers there too. We had different rounds of people and every group had a Spanish speaker, which was something new for this year. Just trying again to reach a larger audience. And that was really well received. Did anybody last night see Daisy talking to the Spanish speaking family and connecting on that level? It was really great. She said they heard about us. I live in North Minneapolis. And they heard that our school was a great school. And they asked Daisy how many other Spanish speakers we have. And she got to say, yeah, lots. I mean, not lots, awesome. Yeah, for a German immersion school, 6 or 7 is pretty good. So that was the open house event that night. And then Festival of Cultures is a big thing. We are doing a Star Tribune summer camp hosting. That's in the second column. That's really exciting. Daisy and I are working together with Paige on that. We're going to advertise our summer camps in the Star Tribune camp manual, I think they call it, our camp guide. And we get to use Fund for Funds for that. And the goal is that people will look at it because the target market for that camp manual, right? That's our market. They're going to look at that and say, there's a German immersion school.
Yeah.
Oh, great. And then they're going to check us out. Super exciting. I'm going to be on a live Q&A with the Park Bugle. I was interviewed yesterday and it was very clear that she was vetting me for my interest level. And I passed. She was not sold on why our school would be interesting. And I sold her on the why. I said, I've been answering the question, why German for 25 years. I got this. And then we just went, it was really fun. So stay tuned. It's gonna be streamed on Facebook.
Cool. That's awesome.
Charter Connect ads are continuing. We had a slight snafu when our Facebook ads got cut off when Bloomwell cleaned house. And so we had a couple of weeks where they weren't doing anything for us because we were struggling to get in, but we made it and they did our prospective family open house ones. And that's what they look like. Okay, the lottery. The lottery is coming up. The lottery is part of we have an actual policy on it. We have to follow all the laws. The lottery is conducted for each grade that have more applications than open seats. And the preference order is as follows: siblings, stepchildren, general applicants. So we do have waitlisted applicants whose siblings are admitted via the lottery, or maybe then moved up their respective wait lists, which is something that happens every year. Applications received during the open application period are included in the lottery. So everything received up till now. And then later applications, if you apply after the lottery, you just get added to the wait list, unless there's an open spot. Offers of enrollment and notification of waitlist are sent via email. Nicole said it's really short afterward, like within 24 hours, everybody knows. That's part of the system that she has set. We're continuing with the manual lottery and the flexibility. It keeps the flexibility of the process. This is versus using the packed class that Charter Connect offers. Nicole and I talked it through. I ultimately let her make the decision. She chose something that she was more comfortable with, and she felt like, why change it if we're not going to stay with Charter Connect? Who knows in the future? Let's just stay with what we know. So she's going to do the manual lottery. There is some documentation there if you're interested in learning more. Any questions about the lottery?
Do we have more applications than open seats?
I don't know.
It's closed.
It's no.
So maybe this.
Good information. None of our other grades are listed. We didn't have any 5th grade applicants.
There's positive. You can still smoke.
Yeah. A little bit.
I don't know if it's coming from outside or
Handle?
It's the windows.
I'm just wondering if the air exchange is bringing it in, huh? Yeah. Is it coming?
Close to window.
I did.
Very strong.
But the windows are.
Anybody's computer really hot?
Walk? I'm not for a walk.
But you're, yeah, go.
Oh, okay.
Well, we can.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, maybe this way then.
We did hear that bang before. That's what.
We did. I know, that's what I was just thinking about, like someone felt hungry.
Mhm.
Let me do it. Just.
They were.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries.
I mean, this is the kind of thing you're up for.
Right. Building burning down.
I'd rather have you
And
speak up.
Danny's worked really hard to make sure that the 15 different heaters for this building are up and running, and it's a full-time job. And so I'm also worried about that right now, because we've got one that's being real sassy. Jim.
Right. We'll just.
If you haven't seen, we do have a new website update. It looks like this. It's all for enrollment. That's a totally new addition. Cat class is up and running. And website updates, we're working on being compliant with USD. We had quite a few things that we needed to add in order to stay compliant for our authorizer. And then Paige has big plans this summer to do a little bit more of a thorough overhaul. Some staffing updates. We welcomed Paul McCarthy, replacing Tony Bachman in elementary Phi Ed. Stefano Cretoni is beginning in February. That guy hasn't even officially started, and I've seen him more this week than Emily, Esther, and Anna put together. He's everywhere. He's a really positive light. Super excited. Anna has resigned. Her last day is tomorrow. And so we're saying goodbye to Frau Miller. Michelle Loken Price, again, Anna was so great, we needed 2 people to replace her. So Michelle Loken Price will be joining our team. She's a parent and a coach in our community, and she will be taking the FIED portion of Anna's position. And then Beerta Fratwell, who Brown Noy and I try to get to join our team on a daily basis. We finally got her. We found the right schedule and the right position. So she's going to join. She's got a few things that she needs to do. And so Heidi Schultz, who held that position for years and years and years and years, is going to be an interim. She's really excited to get back in the classroom. And once again, TCGS is fully staffed. Charter Connect ad spend is proving fruitful. I've invited Dallin to come to the next committee of the whole, so I think we can maybe ask him some more questions there. Paige is recommending changes and working on mobile website priorities for next year. And then we are, we've kind of come to the end of our marketing budget. And so we have this big question of what do we do now? Do we continue? Is it fruitful? Do we pause until maybe, July, when we could do a back to school thing? And so those are the questions that Dallin is going to bring to the committee of the whole next week, kind of help us understand more about what we're getting for our money and whether we want to continue. Yes.
Do you ever talk about anything besides Facebook?
Instagram. Other than those 2 things, Google. No, other than those 3 things. No. Bring your questions. Lots of operational things going on for 25-26 school year already. I signed the Intrax contract for our visas and met with the woman who runs Intrax for the first time to get a handle on what we're doing for our interns and our teacher J1 visas. Have had a lot of applications rolling in for positions, international applications. Kevin has taken on that role of vetting and screening, and I've had probably 3 or 4 interviews with really solid candidates. I already sent out 1 job offer letter, and so that process is running. We have the intent to return that went out, and so Kim and I will comb through that and see what other holes we need to fill, and then we'll kick up our staffing for next year. The budget process is beginning on 2/14 on our PD day. All the departments will get their budgets, and we'll start to, that's one of the first steps in building the budget for the next school year. We revised the tactical team and safety plan. We had an incident that showed us some holes in our current system. And we had some immediate fix, some short fixes, and some long-term fixes. And so I look forward to maybe talking about that at the beginning of next year. We are getting a busing contract bid because our busing contract ends. And so Nicole has been contacting other companies. And then now that Kim is back half-time, she and Nicole will do research on those bids. And then we also went out to bid for our insurance. That is actually happening presently. So tons of stuff going on. Great time to take a leave if you're a director of operations. I'm going to turn it over to Frau Noy.
All right, so we also have a calendar. I know there's a lot to see there. But we had representation from the Whole Child Task Force, Staff Council, and Parent Council. And we looked at the results of the community survey that we sent out in the room brief in December. We had about 100 responses. Yeah, good information. The general consensus was to keep conferences where they were. That was one thing that we were wondering is are our conferences too late? And the majority would prefer to keep them as is. 24%, that was 63%, would prefer to keep them as is. 24%. That we should maybe move them to November, and 13 would prefer in October. However, 76% of the respondents voiced that the timing of conferences worked well for them. We did look at the feedback. There's a preference in the community to move the ER days to Friday. And we thought maybe we would give that a try next year. We talked about it and about teacher stamina too. So we definitely are not having an early release day on December 19th on Friday. But we did think that we can handle the other, we only have 3 early release days now. So we think that it's manageable to move that to a Friday, which is something that the parents voiced that they would like.
Why did those reduce from previous years? It seems like it was every month when my kids were younger.
Yeah, so it used to be every month. when our policy was reviewed for making the calendar, we wanted to be more strategic in giving a variety of holidays the day off. And so one way that we could do that is to have PD days on some of those holidays. And then because we still have the same amount of time, even if it's not spread out as much, we were still not going to lose something in our quality compensation program for our teachers. So it's kind of a balance, and those are the two main reasons why we chose that route.
Is that what QComp stands for?
Quality compensation.
But
Yeah.
the third reason was because we heard from our stakeholders that it was difficult, that all of those days were difficult to staff, to
Yes,
manage as parents.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of trying to speak to the various stakeholders. There were some voices in support of a shorter school year. There were others that said, you know, quote, please keep everything the same. It's perfect. Don't mess with what works. So there's a little bit all over the place. We do have some,
Can we make it longer?
Yes, we thought that if we were gonna make a major change about the length of the year, we would need to have a more thorough community survey in order to feel comfortable going that route. And St. Paul Public has published their 26-27 calendar, so I think I can bring you a calendar earlier next year, so we can meet.
They've already published it?
What's that?
They already published it?
They published it, it's a draft, so we can't, you know, I would use caution about approving it super early, but at least we could have it ready to go, so if we wanted to move it up. So St. Paul Public just published theirs like the day before winter break, so that's why this year feels a little late, is a little later. Because we usually wait till they publish it as part of our policy. We try to align with St. Paul Public where we can.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can, I think we'll wait till the end of your report and then we'll make a motion to approve it. Any other things to add?
Oh, no. That covers.
Any other
Unless there's
questions?
other questions, yeah.
All right.
Oh, so if I understand correctly, this year we already reduced the early release days. And if I understand correctly, we use that to give teachers more PD days, right?
Well, instead of having them like spread out, they're kind of consolidated. So the amount of time that we're having with teachers is
Yes.
about the same. It's just how long and how often. But this is very close to what we have this year.
So what's the experience so far with the teachers? Do they appreciate it? Is it working? Is it not working?
I was gonna say the other thing about reducing from every month, like previous years, they're not very great academic days. There's a lot you cannot accomplish in 30 minutes with your class, speaking as a specialist. And so if they were to have stayed as one every month, it would have been better to have had half of the day, you know, go to your first 3 hours on the first one, go to your second 3 hours on the next one kind of a thing. But it's enough to make a Wednesday chaotic. And so I think staff prefer not having as many unless the scheduling around those days were to change. And then on top of it, there didn't seem to be, at least in the meeting, a huge consensus either way. And so everyone was like, sure, let's try Friday, see if it's better for this upcoming year versus Wednesday. When it's a Wednesday, it kind of makes Thursday feel like a Monday again. And then you have 2 Mondays and 2 Fridays.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we'll let you finish your report, then we'll
come back to it.
come back to.
Okay, switching to academic updates. Whole child, I think the biggest thing to come out of the whole child right now is that we are doing our student belonging survey. I invited Assistant Principal Catherine Radicke to come to February's school board meeting, if that's okay with you, Director, right?
That would be great.
And she'll tell you all about it herself. Because I haven't seen the data, she's crunching it. Kids just took it. So she reported on some other goals. We have a goal of 100% of classrooms having calming corners by the end of the school year, and we're currently at 70%, so we're getting there. History Day is in full swing, and the Festival of Cultures is a big focus right now in February. ES students are creating their passports, and the St. Fenix are working on their Sicily board. We're super excited. We're presenting this year. Innovative education, the READ Act training continues. Teachers are undergoing a training and work session for, we've got a PD day coming up. So we're getting one of our milestones taken care of, which is attempting to begin the work of organizing curricular materials on our drive. That'll be a longer process, but we're starting. We are revising the system for indexing our mystery science scope and sequence as it aligns to Minnesota science standards. Dr. Kat's been working a little extra over the last couple of weeks, getting things done in the 7-8 world or 5-8 world as well. English language arts curriculum, that work is continuing. And then the last thing was that we've been talking a lot about IXL, the math software, over the last couple of board meetings. And so we're officially up and running. All classes are logged in and doing it. And we're really excited to see what the results are. Stay tuned. For German immersion, we have spent a lot of time in January and into February talking about the track to Central High School. Catherine hosted the 5th annual high school panel night. And then the open house for Central is the 12th of February. And so we, as TCGS, this is kind of cool. We get our own half an hour. They schedule a special half hour before the whole open house starts, where just TCGS families go. And they do some special, I don't know, I get to go this time. I haven't been yet. We had an the alumni meeting was scheduled and then it got pushed back. So we're going to have an alumni meeting. The alumni reached out. They want to tell me all the things that we should do to get kids better ready for high school. So I look forward to that. Our intern programs were in transition. We have 9 new spring interns arriving this weekend. And then Nina Maslovsky spent a lot of time meeting with every single intern and doing a really thorough interview. And so these are some highlights that she had selected. Highlights of the highlights, awesome staff and community, and they have learned some resiliency from being at our school, and they're definitely taking away some skills and hopefully some confidence. So we'll miss them, and we look forward to hosting our new ones. The last bit is the pulse survey data. I wrote this down that Mighty said task to slog through at the end of the day. This was the task to slog through at the end of the day after the first 8 weeks of school. And we tried to make it short. We had 53 responses gathered, which I thought was okay until I heard your 100 from the calendar. So our hope is to establish this routine and hopefully garner more participation. We'll do it again next year, beef it up maybe just a little bit or change a question or two. But the fatigue at the end of the year really causes a drop in response to that larger survey. So we decided to do 2 or 3 smaller surveys, and this was one of them. So the data, we can just scroll through. Number 1 was overall experience, and we're at 85% with a pretty positive reaction. That little green one is poor, and they were 2 people rated their experience. 2 families rated their experience as poor.
Do we follow up with them?
The emails, it was anonymous. Thank you. Yeah. Academic progress was also pretty high, 88%. The next slide is German language progress. And no negative response there. That's of note. The next one is social emotional temperature check. Most kids at this point were adjusting socially in classes. The next one was resources as far as tutoring and after school programs. And this is one that the data here showed us that we had some work to do. And I believe that Daisy has done that work. I'm so excited to reveal when she reveals the summer camp offerings. Not gonna spoil any others, but cardboard camp. Super excited. There's gonna be some really great things. And then how do you feel engaged in school activities and events as parents? This is also an area, I think, of growth. And so parent council, who has sort of newly formed, they've worked on a new charter. Their main goal is going to be community and engagement. And so I think that this data is just really aligning with what we already sort of were feeling and knew. And the fact that we already have a solution makes this action-oriented lady very happy. Busing and transportation, lot of neutrality, probably because people are not taking the bus. There wasn't an option for I don't take the bus. Otherwise, we are working on another bid. We'll compare. I will say the beginning of the year with one or two of the buses was rough. Nicole Kreschel worked really hard with this company to get it to a spot. She was communicating daily with families, and she really worked hard.
Tell her it's noticed.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It was late every day initially.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It hasn't happened
Yeah.
in the last
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And then the last one is that it looks like people are satisfied with our arrival and dismissal procedures. From a parent perspective, that's great. So busing and family engagement are our focus after the first full survey. That is the completion of the January director's report.
You guys aren't busy at all.
Oh my goodness, right?
I have a random question for you.
Yeah,
It reminded me when we talked about Q count, the new budget proposal,
it's bad.
it's bad. Have we
Yeah.
thought about what's gonna happen yet?
I talked to Scott yesterday, who's the union president. We met about 3 things, and I dropped that little bit of hot knowledge in his lap yesterday.
Yep.
He didn't know, they don't know yet, and so I don't know if they do now. What she's talking about is Governor Walz's educational budget has proposed the removal of quality compensation. I believe that they are trying to fiscally manage other programs, and it is a huge chunk of change, and it will be really, really missed by our teachers.
Plus, we're mandated to evaluate teachers, so like the mandate doesn't go away.
There's
but
parts
the
of
pay
it that we
needs to
do
go.
anyway.
Right,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah. I used to call it the money that they paid me on top of the money that they paid me for doing the job. And so I get where some of that is coming from, but also when we have teacher salaries are what they are, you're just taken away from getting blood from a stone.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if it passes. He doesn't hold the fiscal purse strings. It's just a suggestion.
Yep.
I had a question on the pulse surveys. I'm really excited that we're doing shorter surveys because I think it's gives us more real-time data to react to and not wait till the end of the year.
Yeah.
I wonder if I was just thinking of like the 2 people that were unsatisfied and someone asked if we follow up with them. I wonder at those surveys, could we give the option to I'd like to be contacted by admin?
Yeah.
And that might just be worth adding.
Yeah.
If there's a way to do that in the Google form.
Yeah, or in the top.
Yeah. Something like that.
It might have. I don't know if it said it or not, but yeah.
Sometimes it asks you to sign in.
Yeah, sometimes you
Yeah,
have to
I
sign
did
in.
not collect emails. I wanted to.
But at the bottom, you could put just like a write-in.
Yeah.
I'd like to be contacted into
Here-
your email address.
And here's your email. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Excellent. Any other questions for Dr. Zenfnig? Great. So then our action item out of this conversation is to approve the school calendar. So I will make a motion to approve the 25-26 school calendar as presented tonight. Do you have a second? Okay. Any discussion?
Does the spring breaks align?
Yeah.
I think it's the Friday half day. I think is a positive. right? I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but Fridays should be usually easier to get away from.
Yeah.
Take care of the kids than a Wednesday.
I agree that seems like a very family centered.
Yeah.
Change.
I mean, January you have MLK, right?
Mhm.
MLK weekend with Monday off. February you have President's Day. And then May you have May 1st, which actually is a holiday in Germany, so I'm okay with that.
And I'm happy we kept fall break. That is something that I know probably not ideal for some families, but it's one of the things we loved about the school, and I wish my older kids had.
Sorry, Abner, what did you say?
I said, I'm happy we kept fall break. I know it's not ideal for all
There's
families.
2 fall breaks.
No, it's that week long with MEA.
I mean, November as
Oh,
well.
yes. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, with so many international hires, they
Yep.
come in here, if you put yourself in their shoes for a minute, they get used to all of this new house, all like they're crashing by then,
Yeah.
I would have argued fall break is a German thing too, so
It is.
Yeah.
you need some Easter break too.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
No, don't think the community is a big fan of like having school till July.
Right.
Jens would be too.
We can talk full timing calendar when we get air conditioning.
We had 2 families on the tour today, Nicole and I, and one of them asked if our calendar was aligned to St. Paul.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, and then I told them the 5 ways it's not, but mostly it is.
The
We
big
just
ones.
start, where it really counts, but we start a lot earlier in the end.
Mhm.
We're the, I was not part of the calendar committee, we're the early release days strategically chosen to align with the Mondays off? Or-
No. We wanted to pace them in a way that was helpful for QComp. Mostly, and then when you have one in that month, it might as well just make a bigger weekend at that point, which was another thing that communities. That the community provided feedback on was that when we do have those is if we want to maximize, that's helpful, like if we can. Put them
I can
together.
see the opposite of that is that if the, MLK Junior, I'm married to a banker, so he does have that day off, but most people don't.
Mhm.
And so that's the day that now I'm providing childcare and now I've got a longer weekend.
Mhm.
That to me, I wonder the 100 people that took this survey, are we getting the voices of people that might be more affected by that?
If you're gonna have to take childcare for the time anyways, does the placement of it matter?
Because we have kinder club, do you mean?
Or just like, if a family's gonna have to pay for childcare for this X number of hours, does it matter when it is? Like, I think the benefit to families that would maybe want to do something with a longer weekend or
Yeah, I
whatever
think that.
is, yeah.
I think as long as you have if you have Kinder Club open on that Friday.
Mhm.
I mean, I will say, I feel like President's Day, MLK Day, it's an established enough holiday that parents more easily plan
They're fine
around
for
it
it.
versus just like a random school holiday, for lack of a better term.
Like a PD day.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I used to take those days off.
And I believe that we actually have to have those days off. I don't think that it's possible. There's like at the
We get
revisit.
to choose between MLK or, but there's choice.
There's something
choice,
there, but this checks the boxes. The legal boxes.
Do you find our calendar helps recruit or hurts recruitment?
That's an interesting question. I'm not really sure.
Today it helped.
Today
It was the answer that they wanted to hear.
Okay, just something to think about as we recruit new families is, especially with the young kids, right? We can't all leave the kids at home, but
Yeah.
it's, if they have to get care and stuff, if that's a decision point. We haven't heard any feedback like that.
We haven't in the last 3 years. We did 3 years ago hear from a parent who might still have a child here, definitely has a child at Central, and was very passionate about just how much it cost to go to our school, because those were days then that the family was using
Kinder Club.
Well, and for some of the key holidays, Kinder Club is not open, so that for those extended breaks, that is a challenge for families.
And so some of the time, when we're consolidating onto a day, and those are on those holidays, like they do sometimes align strategically with SPPS, so there's other childcare options as well. And before, when we had a monthly early release, I'm sure that
That was tough.
that
That was
added up,
tough,
whereas
yeah.
if you can organize something
Yep.
for one day and it's just the whole day, that might be less difficult to do.
For sure. Thank you for all your hard work and the calendar committee's work here on that too. Any final questions? Right. Then I would ask that all those in favor of approving the calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. All right, calendar is approved. Thank you. All right. On to our next agenda item, our Q2 authorizer report. Lengthy document that we all have the chance to look at. We did hear back from UST with no changes or adjustments needed. I just wanted to make sure that the board did not have anything that we wanted to submit to UST for consideration. And then I don't think we need to take any further action on that. So just checking in to see if anyone caught any errors or things that they'd like to see updated.
No, I wish Kevin was here though, to say thanks for
Yeah.
wrangling us and getting that all situated, and thanks to Elizabeth and everybody else that put in a lot of work to
This was a big one.
update it. Yeah, it really was.
Big lift. I'm sure Kevin logged on. So.
Yeah, you're there, Kevin.
Yeah, he's been.
Thank you,
really
Kevin.
great.
All right. Well, again, thank you to everyone who worked on that, because that was a massive undertaking and kind of covered the gamut of things. All right, that brings us to our board committee reports. Director Smaka, do you want to kick us off with fundraising?
Yep, we met January 21st, so last week. And we just kind of did a little pulse check as to how close we are to the 85,000 goal. So Isabel is going to crunch the numbers and get back to us on that. We talked about some new fundraising opportunities, and I think the consensus is that our spring campaign, we're going to try something new, thanks to Kirsten's find, called Raise Craze, where kids pledge acts of kindness and then raise money through the community. People donate for all the acts of kindness that they make. So I checked into that, and I'm gathering information on that for our next meeting.
Okay. I will add, one of the pieces of feedback that we have consistently heard from our community is that people feel tapped out. So this is a way to kind of expand the network of folks that can support us in a way that is not still selling wrapping paper, but really kind of aligning with our school's value of being kind and being part of the community, and kind of living out that value too. So hopefully people will be excited. We're going to try to do it before everyone totally checks out in spring, but hopefully with the good weather and people feeling refreshed, once the flowers start blooming, we'll have some good participation. So that was some of the logic behind that, is the response to what we know to be true in our community. So. All right, Director Hyde, Finance and Facilities.
We did not meet in January because of the timing of our meetings. When everybody else is skipping December, it makes more sense for us to skip the 2 days after New Year's. So I have nothing to report.
All right. That brings us to Committee of the Whole. At our last Committee of the Whole, we spent some significant time reviewing our strategic planning proposals from Mighty and MISBA that we heard tonight. should have pulled up my agenda, but I think the other key part of that meeting from January was we did hold a closed session to complete the mid-year review of Director Zampenig, which was then held later that month, the week after. So that has been complete. And as part of that, the board did agree to enter into a contract negotiation with Director Zampenig to renew her contract. So part of my report tonight is to ask the full board to give the executive committee some the okay to negotiate that contract so that we have an actual contract to present to the full board at our next meeting. We're just thinking from a timing standpoint, doing some of that back and forth would be more time effective to have the executive committee do some of that work and then present the full contract to the board for consideration. So I would like to make a motion tonight for the executive committee to be able to negotiate the executive director contract prior to the full board meeting.
Second.
All right. Discussion, any concerns, questions?
Will we have a chance to review the contract before?
So the idea of this is just, we will negotiate to get to a place where the executive committee and the executive director agree on something. But it's not official until the full board votes on it. We just want to bring something that's prepared to that session, which will be at the board meeting.
And then we would be voting to approve that.
Yes.
So yeah, certainly share it ahead of time for everyone to have the chance to review, but just the nitty-gritty working process.
Yeah. We could even, did we say that we try to have it prepared for the committee of the whole meeting? So everybody can review it and then vote on it is that what we said?
I think, yeah, and I think what the idea would be that we would have to have a closed session at the February board meeting to review.
Got it. Okay.
So I think the idea was that we'd use this month of February, have that closed session.
Yep.
On the board, and then be able to vote on
Which
it.
I don't want her to get to work, but I'm a little disappointed she hasn't emailed me back yet just because I want to hear from her. Just like a hi.
I get it. Get it.
I don't expect her to be done with it or anything.
She's just logging through her, 10 million emails that she
4.5 hours on Monday.
Oh my gosh. All right. Any other discussion about that? All right, then I would ask that all in favor of allowing the executive committee to do some of the working on the contract draft, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, we will do that work and motion passes. Governance.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I have another action item discussed in the committee of the whole, and that is to reschedule our February board meeting from our standard Thursday, February 27th to Wednesday, February 26th. I unfortunately have a conflict where I'll be out of town, so would love to be able to be part of that meeting if everyone is open to moving it by one day. So I'd make a motion to move from the Thursday, February 27th to Wednesday, February 26th for the February board meeting of the TCGS Board of Directors. Do I have a second? Thank you, Director Spanka. Any discussion? Does that work for people?
I think so.
I think we kind of did a cursory check of calendars. All right. All those in favor of that proposed change of date for the February board meeting, say aye.
Right.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes, so we will be sure to let Kevin know as well.
No, he's listening.
I'm sure,
No,
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. You definitely tune into the board meeting when you have a sick kiddo. All right.
Laura's still here at least. And Juliana.
All right.
We're not doing it for nothing.
We're not. All right. Director Albers.
Yeah, governance is off the ground. Happy to report that I do have a parent that's decided to join the non-com committee.
That's awesome.
That doesn't make sense. Non-com stands for nomination committee, so that would be committee. Anyways,
Past 9 o'clock.
it's getting
Here we go.
late. But I'm excited about that. We'll be talking more soon, on potential board members to run for the election. Anybody that's listening, of course, if you have ideas or anything like that of anyone or yourself, feel free to send those my way.
Just email you. Just email you.
Yeah, just email me. If you're nominating someone, there's a specific form. It'll start to go out in the run brief soon. There's kind of a timeline that I need to refresh my eyeballs on, that we've looked at. So it's a lot of, kind of networking, great thing to do at Festival of Cultures for those of you sitting in front of me. If you're going, all of those things. Besides that, we've got 3 policies that are up for approval tonight. Policy 112 is malicious and sadistic conduct. It's an annual review. Policy 410 is also an annual review. It's FMLA. And the last one up for approval tonight is policy 404, which is background checks. So, before I discuss anything further with y'all, I would make a motion to approve policies 112, 410, and 404.
Second.
Sweet. Do I need
Discussion?
These are pretty, just, the overview, there's not a lot of significant changes on these. These are things that are, more so low hanging fruit. So there were no significant changes, on any of these policies.
All right, any questions? These are annual reviews, so they stay pretty up to date, right?
112 and 410 are annually reviewed.
Okay.
Background checks is not. That's every 3 years. Which is how long a background check is good for. No. Get them in now.
And surprisingly, the background check one is the one with the least amount of changes compared to the annually reviewed one.
Background check.
Shout out to Lori for making sure those are up to date again.
Any questions? Other changes, edits?
No,
All
but
right.
I want to tell Elizabeth that Catherine is doing an amazing job on the governance committee. It's great to have her there. Almost better than having you there, to be honest.
Thank you. That's great. Don't know what that.
The mighty consultant called you pegged. They're like, I sense conflict.
It's your aura.
Yeah.
All right. Clearly. It's late. Great. I will say then, all those in favor of approving policy 112, 410, and 404, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes. Policies are approved. Thank you, Director Albers. And Director Hartman, former Director Hartman.
And Directors Larson.
Oh,
And
yes.
Lindner and Director Hyde. Everybody's there. It's feeling good.
It's a party.
Yeah, no.
Well, I think that we'd be at a forum, so I brought it. But thank you, Director Larson and Director Linder as well, and Hyde. All right, liaison updates. Back on track.
Me to start.
Yeah.
Okay, so the parent council continues to work on their charter. They're working through things like term lengths that they're looking at, their election process. They are talking about having an annual retreat right before school starts to kind of get them aligned and put a plan together for the year. So all good things. They also discussed a need for some kind of parent education program to talk about the role of parent council. I think it's not well known what they do, what the difference between them and the PTO is, et cetera. They're also working on coming up with ways to improve communication and community building within the school. Basically the parents, and they're gonna be focused on KG and first grade, as it's the newer families that need it more than some of the higher grades. And then they also voted to change their meetings to the Mondays following the Thursday of the board meeting so that we get updates to them quickly as opposed to used to be like 2 or 3 weeks after.
That's really smart.
So that happened as well. So good progress.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Has there been, I know that when it was started, it was the expectation or the hope was that there'd be a parent for each class, like class section?
Grade, each class section, yes.
Yeah. Has there been any talk about just having a parent for each grade?
Not that I've heard, but I know in one of the meetings, they were talking about how there's holes in certain grades and how they plan to cover some of those. But I will have to ask. I don't know. Let me ask and get back.
I was
to
just
you.
looking at the spreadsheet and noticed that a number of grades only had one per, and I'm just wondering do we need that many, or could one for a grade be effective and maybe be a little bit more manageable
The
too?
answer is probably yes, it could be effective. I think this is gonna be a building year for them.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that was one of the things that was
Yeah.
discussed as part of the charter.
Yeah, because the EKs then are the ones
Yeah,
that
in
are
the
for
class,
each classroom,
yeah.
and so this isn't bad, so.
Right.
One thing I'm gonna take back to them is talk about the presentations we got today on the strategic plan and is there a role for them to play in that engagement process to get feedback from the parent community? So.
Or to help
To help.
encourage people to
Yeah, yeah,
participate in the
right.
feedback process. Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
So.
Thank you. All right, staff liaison.
The staff council did meet, however, I was unable to make the meeting, so I don't have much to report. I really feel like I didn't do anything for the last 2 months. Or at least it sounds that way.
Yeah, Paul brought one thing to me, Director Hyde, after their meeting.
Yep,
And
yes.
it was good discussion, and we made a quick change and very successful procedure.
Good. Yeah, that and discussing who from the staff council was going to join the calendar committee was done at the meeting. Those were the 2 big things that were discussed that were told to me after the meeting.
Right. The first all council meeting has been scheduled.
Oh, that's exciting.
When is that? Sorry, you can.
I have to check my calendar.
No, it's okay. It's just more of a curiosity thing.
February.
Awesome. Thank you. Academic liaison wellness committee.
Yeah, wellness committee is not currently meeting, so that one is good. Good timing though, the special education advisory committee council meets right before the board meetings happen, so that was this past Monday. Director Lindner was there as well, and it was a good chat about training and updates, and it really gave some kudos from families to Herr Haugen and the way that the process has been running, as well as a small presentation by Tanya, who is working with the review team to look at the SPED department this year, which is a part of the larger, what?
SPED audit.
Yeah, the audit. So that was all good, and yeah, highly recommend it. It was a great meeting. I was very impressed this round, so. And curriculum advisory committee was supposed to meet on Tuesday. They moved it back because of the survey for student belonging that just got sent out. They want that information to better help with that. So that's been rescheduled for the middle of February. Otherwise, that meets the Tuesday before board meeting, so it's typically a busy week.
I know wellness committee is not meeting, but you did receive a great PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was great. Student council. We don't have a student council liaison, we need one. The student council made some suggestions to the wellness committee on, what they might like to see change in that policy, which is up on the docket for the year. It's been sitting in the committee, though, waiting for them to assemble, organize, and give us their thoughts and input as stakeholders who are, of course, very much affected by that policy. And so that will be an interesting discussion going forward with parties involved. I am thinking that the wellness committee, subcommittee will start potentially meeting to respond to those suggestions in the next month or two. We'll see.
It's very thorough presentation.
That was very thorough. They had sources, so History Day will go well this year.
Yeah, a lot of documentation. It's great that they were taking the time to do that. Very impressive. So
Katrin Gilhoff, right? She's like leading it.
Yes,
She's doing a really
She's
great
there.
job.
the student council advisor.
I was very impressed. Right. Anything else to add from liaison updates? Right. Any new business? Anyone? This is not necessarily new business, but I do feel like we have to say our goodbyes to Anna and thank her for her willingness to serve on the board, for her candor and her kindness and her thoughtfulness and her ability to step up and step in on top of teaching. And we know it's a lot. And so we're very grateful for the time that we had with you. But we will miss you and wish you all the best as you head back home. And we hope you'll stay in touch with us. But thank you for your service to our school and for teaching. You will be missed, but we wish you all the best.
Thank you. I mean, likewise. I really cherish this experience working along all of you. I can really now see and feel the hard work you do. And yeah, thank you so much for doing that and for our community. So I'm very proud to be able to being a part of it, even for a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Follow us on Facebook, like our post. Yeah, subscribe to our Instagram.
Come visit. YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
come visit.
Our YouTube channel.
I know. No. That's
Tune in
true,
to
yeah,
the
the
next board
YouTube channel. Subscribe to
Our
YouTube.
board meetings are starting to come up in my like recommended. It's pissing me.
You don't want to relive this, you mean?
I don't want a reminder that they're out there.
Yeah.
I'm still amazed that students are not like taking something out of this video and just making.
Don't give them ideas. You don't have to suffer the fallout of that.
I've been searching for it.
All right. Well, with no other new business to address, we'll meet again on February 26th. And this meeting is adjourned. That was for you.
It really